Wouldn't it be cool if you could just sit here, type all day long in your pajamas and make over six figures per year? So my good friend Holly Johnson, she didn't plan on making over six figures a year becoming a freelance writer. She just wanted to make enough to replace the income from her dead-end job. And when I say dead-end job, I mean literally this is a dead-end job. You're gonna find out what that is here in one sec. But she just wanted to replace that income, and that income was only $3,000 a month, and that was her goal. So she started a side hustle as a freelance writer. She got her first paying gig, and she shares how much that first gig was. And then that led her to her second client. And before long, she replaced that income. She made that $3,000 a month, and then it continued to grow. And the crazy thing is that her making $100,000 a year as a freelance writer, it didn't take her that long. But what's even crazier is that she makes a whole lot more now. Like, so much that it's going to blow your mind. So I'm bringing Holly Johnson in so she can share her journey, her experience becoming a freelancer, how she got her first client to help you get your first client if this is something that you want. And then from there, how do you grow this to make over six figures per year? And while you're doing that, you might as well travel the world, because that's what she's doing with her husband and her two kids. So without further ado, let's meet Holly Johnson from clubthrifty.com. You're going to love it. Let's go. All right, what's going on, y'all? So I'm excited to finally have Holly Johnson on the show. I think I've asked Holly a few times to be on this show, but she's always traveling. I feel like every time I hear, oh, well, I'm traveling, I'm going here, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I've known Holly for a while, seen her online. I know that she travels a lot, but until you actually are messaging her, you don't realize like how much she is on the road, but which is awesome, and which I'm sure she's going to share more about. Holly, how are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Holly also has another gift, which I've never actually witnessed firsthand, or maybe I have once. And it may have been, we had a shared Google Doc where I saw you writing, or typing, and you were busting out like word after word after word. And I think I've shared this before, but I'll go ahead and share it again. For me to write a 500-word article, it's probably going to take me about 2 hours or more, and there's going to be about 37 typos. Even with Google trying to help me out. How long would it take you to write a 500-word article, Holly Johnson?
Like maybe 20 minutes, but it depends what it is. Like I usually write about 4,000 to 6,000 words a day and submit, like professional words. So, and I work about 6 hours a day.
So we're going to get to that. I want to start there because I didn't realize like how slow I really was, but now I know. That's awesome. So if you haven't gathered this, Holly is a professional writer. Was that what you say? A professional writer?
Yeah, I'm a freelance writer. Yep.
Okay. But obviously before that, you didn't start off doing that. Tell me a little bit about what got you into freelance writing. Like how did that journey begin, and kind of like just set that up?
Well, my husband was a funeral director, and I worked in the funeral home with him for 7 or 8 years. And at one point, just like other people we know, we started a personal finance blog, Club Thrifty, which is was about our journey out of debt and all that. And I just realized throughout that process, I was very good at writing, and I've gotten better over the years, but I also have had some health problems because I had 2 spinal fusions in my early 20s. So I was living in very bad chronic pain, and I was trying to figure out a way to work at home. So I basically just started freelance writing on the side until I made about $3,000 a month. And that replaced my salary at the funeral home because I made about $35,000 a year. So I could quit. And that made a huge difference in my health. And that's pretty much how it happened.
Okay, so that was a lot to unpack. I remember you sharing about working in a funeral home. That usually is not the most the most common transition
Yeah.
from a to personal finance blogging to becoming a freelance writer. You mentioned, so you started the blog, you started writing, but you when you start a blog, for those that don't know, like you start it in the convenience of your own home. So you're not going out and networking unless you're going to conferences, which that's we've seen each other at FinCon, several times. But for somebody to go out, I mean, you had this goal, like I want to replace my income. And I think many people like, oh, I would love to be able to write from home and get paid, but they don't even know where to start. How did you actually get your first paying gig? And I'm actually curious, do you remember how much you got paid on the first one?
Gosh, I think my first paid writing gig was Get Rich Slowly. And this I think I got paid $150, but that was plenty of money to me because I think I made like $20 an hour at my funeral home job or something like that. So I was thrilled with that. And it kind of branched off from there because that's how it usually starts with freelance writing. If you can get a pretty decent gig where that you can put on your portfolio, it's considerably easier to get other jobs from there. So, and I got that job because I was like a frequent reader and I always commented, and that's how they found me.
I'm glad you said that. So because even landing that first gig, so you're reading this blog back in the day when people used to leave comments.
Yes.
When you were leaving comments, was it just because you really enjoyed? I mean, what was the motivation? I'm assuming that they were fairly in depth comments where you got their
Yeah.
attention.
I think I was really into like my personal journey out of debt at that time. So it all just really resonated with me, like getting out of debt, cutting my expenses and all that stuff. Things I don't care about as much now that I'm older and we're not broke anymore. But I was just really into it. And I think I just I don't know. For some reason I wrote really in-depth comments on that website.
Thank you. So JD Roth, who owned Get Rich Slowly, sold it and then bought it back.
Yeah.
So he re-owns that, and actually was one of the very first personal finance blogs that I was ever introduced to as well. That's awesome. So you get that one gig, and obviously, for those that don't know, I mean, when you have like a resume, like just your normal resume, you put your work experience, you share everything. If you have any sort of online projects, whether it be a blog post, an article, website design, that becomes part of your portfolio. So you write this article. I'm assuming it does okay. And then that you use that basically as all right, I'm going to reach out to somebody else. Like what was kind of that next step?
Yeah, actually they hired me to write 2 a month. So I had an ongoing thing with them.
After that first article?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they hired me to write 2 a month. And then I really just reached out to other people from there. I remember I went to FinCon a couple times, and then Sam Dojan hired me to write for Personal Capital. And that made a huge difference because that was a financial app. So it was basically one of my first like corporate jobs, I guess. And that made it much easier to get even more jobs from people that paid more.
So I'm gosh, like I feel like this thing just happened pretty quick is how you're describing this. I mean, for many people, like they don't know where to start, and then they get one gig. Was when you wrote that first post for Get Rich Slowly, was that almost like an immediate, like, hey, we'd love to have you come on?
Yeah. I think I've always been like I think I was like, hey, if you want me to write regularly, I'm available. I think I've always been like that. So I don't know if they asked me or if I just asked them, but it worked fine.
Okay. So then personal capital becomes an option. When this all starts, how did you go about pricing? You mentioned $150 for Get Rich Slowly. Now you're looking at getting some corporate clients, some other freelance writing gigs. I know for me, like I want to say the first time ever, I don't know if it was the first one, but when I think it was Experian blog, I started writing for them. And that was me. It was more of a, hey, I'm trying to get backlinks, have like that author profile. Getting paid was just, well, I told myself like, oh, that's just nice. It was like $100. I had no idea how to price myself. How did you go about deciding like how much you're going to charge, when you're either pitching or being pitched to write for different sites?
Well, to be honest, at the beginning, I was willing to take what I could get for the most part. But after a while, I tried to earn like $50 an hour. and then just graduated from there based on how much time something took.
So $50 an hour, based because like is this based off of you can write 500 words in about 20 minutes? Is that kind of the?
Yeah, but I wasn't that fast when I started. I've gotten a lot faster over the years. So at the beginning though, I just wanted to make money so I could quit my job and not have to go to it anymore, basically. But then over the years, I will only work for a certain amount now.
So you have so you're building up your portfolio. You got personal capital now, get rich slowly. I'm assuming you're adding more to that mix. I don't know if you said this, I don't know if I missed this, but you want to get to $3,000 a month to replace your job. How long did it take you to get there?
Like 10 months or something. And during that time, I was still working full time. So I would get up at like 4 a.m. and write before work. And I would write after my kids went to bed or after my oldest went to bed. And I would write on weekends, holidays. Like I had to do it all at the same time. So it really sucked, but it was worth the investment of that time, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, obviously. So, I mean, if you had to guess like how many hours a week that you were spending on, because at that time, I mean, it was we'll call it a side hustle. I mean, but with a clear goal in mind, like how much time on the side were you investing into getting to that $3,000 a month?
Gosh, I don't know, maybe another 20 hours a week on top of my regular job.
And how many hours were you working at your job?
40 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it though. I love it. I mean, I've shared before, like with my blog, it was like 9 or 10 months of me writing. Wasn't writing as much as you were, but still writing and doing research on SEO and all this other stuff. And my strategy was more of I'm building something that I hope I think is going to make money. Whereas you're actually like making money out of the gate. I mean, you're actually providing a service, getting paid to do it. Dude, that's amazing. So 10 months, was there any reservation of, should I really give up the job to do this thing? Because like, what happens if this doesn't work out? Like what happens if I lose my writing clients, or, was there any just fear or hesitation of actually quitting the job once you got to that point where you were basically replacing your income?
I would say, yeah, but my husband still worked full time at the funeral home. So I had that fallback. And also I was suffering so much with my chronic pain that I just couldn't even do it anymore. So I just had I had really no choice at that point. But yeah, it was scary. I mean, I had a good job. It was a very good job. They treated me really well. I didn't dislike it. It was just too much. And we had young children. So it was really hard for both of us to work away from the home all day too. So our life improved a lot, just me being at home to just put a load of laundry in or something like that. It makes a huge difference.
Right now, so you've got a 10 and 12-year-old and, they are in school. So you're right. Like, so you quit your job and now you're writing more. How much time per week? I mean, did you replace the full-time job with full-time writing?
Yeah. And I sent my kids to daycare during the day, like from 8 to 3, because once I could quit my job, I started earning a lot more money. So I didn't try to work with them home. Like a lot of people have thought that over the years, but I sent them to daycare from like 8 to 3 and I worked basically full time. But then I started earning 6 figures pretty quickly. So that was totally worth the investment of money,
So you had this goal. All right, I want to quit my job. I want to do freelance writing. I want to make, get that $3,000 a month. Was it ever even in a realm of possibility that you would be making over 6 figures freelance writing?
I don't know. I didn't really think about it, but I was pretty happy when it started happening for sure. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't really my goal. I just all of a sudden had all this extra time. I went from doing it in the morning before work and weekends to just sitting here 40 hours a day at my computer, or 35 hours. And that's just what happened. So
I'm just really curious. Like every brain is wired differently. I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit. I'm just kind of curious because for me, and so for those that don't know, like Holly actually is one of my writers. I mean, she's been, we've been working together for a number of years, probably more than I can even count right now. And I've just realized, like, for me to actually write, like I can't sit and write anymore.
I don't know if it is like just I got 4 kids trying to manage like all these different schedules, all the stuff I got going on. For me to actually write, I have to call a transcription service where I just talk out loud to get my thoughts down. So then I'll get it typed out on a Word document. So at least I can then see my words and then kind of like mix and match or then make edits there where I can see it on paper. Like it's almost like my brain goes way too fast for my fingers to keep up. That's how my brain is. Do you have, for you to actually sit and write? I mean, is there any hacks, any way that you've been able like just to increase your productivity in writing? Or is this just like how your brain's wired that you could just do this?
I think that my brain is just wired that way. And I also think just like with anything else, you just get better over time. So I've been doing it so long now. It's like second nature to just sit here and write all day. So, like if you did it every day, I'm sure the same thing would happen.
Yeah, no, I love it. And so is it strictly personal finance? And we'll start there. Is it strictly personal finance? Is that what you do? All you write about?
Personal finance, travel, credit cards, insurance, higher education. Sometimes I write a lot of like financial advisor websites, like the whole copy for their websites.
Okay.
I write all kinds of stuff, really, just pretty much anything in that realm.
Wow. Okay. So I was just curious. So yeah, my brain definitely is wired differently, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're making 6 figures, you're probably blowing yourself away. Like, wow. And it continues to increase. You share some information prior to this interview, how much you made 2019. I didn't want to share that unless you wanted to share that.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read this. This is what Holly shares. And so in 2019, she made 400, I'm going to say this slowly so we all hear it. $412,000 in writing income alone. So that's not including any other ads on your blog or any other, because you have a course, which we'll talk about. I mean, that is strictly from freelance writing.
Yes, that's totally from writing because I have other side businesses. And then my husband does the blog full time.
I'm going to say it again. $412,000 freelance writing. And the cool thing is you live in the Midwest, correct?
Yeah, in Indiana.
Yep. So having moved from Illinois, I'm safe to assume that cost of living there is probably not too expensive. You're probably not seeing real estate prices like 3x or 4x, like in some higher growth areas. And anyway, I'm sharing all this because you live in an area, I'm assuming like you started this journey to get out of debt. How did that work out?
Well, we've been out of debt a long time.
Yeah. Yep.
And now we're just like trying to retire very early.
So I didn't know that, but I had to just take a stab. Like I was assuming that was going to be the case. Let's talk about that because everybody has their different opinions on retiring early. You have the FIRE movement. You mentioned that you are pursuing what is called Fat F.I.R.E. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Well, for us, we live a really nice lifestyle, and I just don't want to change it when we retire in our late 40s. I want to be able to travel and spend money and not be super restrained. I've never been somebody that wants to live on a super tight budget for the rest of my life, especially since we're going to be young. So we just want to have more money than we really need in retirement.
That's so cool. I mean, I love that. I mean, you shared that you guys travel, and I believe it based on like our communication, like once a month or so.
Well, yeah, before the pandemic in 2019, I traveled 20 weeks, which is like, more than a third of the year. But now it's a little slowed down. It's kind of gearing back up. So we go about 1 week a month or a week and a half a month or so.
And just so we're clear, when we say 1 week a month, like you're not like driving a few hours like to some city, right? Like just share us some places that you guys have traveled this year.
Well, we just went the fall break in Italy for 2 weeks, stuff like that. But we mostly we do travel in the United States, but I write about for my travel writing, I write about Europe and the Caribbean. So we go to Europe and the Caribbean is where we like to go.
Oh, it's so funny because like I don't think you know this, but like where we live in the Nashville, Tennessee area, and our fall break, which was in October, a lot of families here go to 30A, Seaside, Florida. And so when you said fall break, my brain was just going towards Seaside because that's where we
Yeah.
go. And then you just said, oh, we just went to fall break for 2 weeks in Italy.
Yeah, we did. We took our kids to New York City for 2 nights first, and we took them to see Hamilton and surprised them,
Oh,
and they loved
wow.
it. And then we went to Italy, but they get 2 weeks of fall break, so we usually try to go somewhere kind of far for that.
I mean, so a good friend of mine, actually also a neighbor, Grant Baldwin, and who I think you probably are aware of. I don't know how much you talk to Grant or know Grant. And so they also travel quite a bit. And actually it's kind of the running joke in our neighborhood. Like, oh, where are you guys going now?
Yeah.
But I don't think Grant's ever been to Italy. But they've been to like Disney a few times, like back to back. And we just went on a golf trip, and he just went to San Antonio for some men's mastermind group. And he takes his kids, like, I think they rotate. 1 month it's him, the next month it's his wife, and they'll rotate. They've got 3 daughters. So just like, it's cool stuff. And a lot of that is able to, because of the business and the lifestyle, but also the intentionality.
Yeah.
I mean, because you could have said, well, man, I'm making $400,000 a year writing. What if I can make 500,000? What if I can make 600,000? Which typically means one of two things. Either you find higher paying clients, or you just start working more. And then you kind of lose sight of like why you did this in the first place.
Yeah.
Now, something I want to touch on, because you also shared this. So, when you hit that high of 412,000 in 2019, you mentioned that you didn't think you'd be able to do that again. Being home, stuck with everybody else during the pandemic, you actually made more than that high in 2019, passing 450,000.
In 2020.
In 2020. But this is what I love. You share that this year you're on track to make less.
Yeah.
And not because you got fired, not because share why is that?
I think I'm going to make about 360 this year. And I just there's just certain things I don't want to do anymore. And as you know, the stock market has been going gangbusters, and like my retirement plan just looks, rosier every day. So I just have said no to more things, and I've taken a little bit more time off, not a ton more time, but I feel a little bit more comfortable in everything, saying no, because I used to say yes to everything, and I'm trying to have better habits about that.
It's so hard. It is, and I can relate to that, because there's this fear like, oh man, if I give this up, if I say no, what if I miss out? What if I lose out? What if the other ones fall through? And also too, I know, just to be 100% transparent, like, so with my business, we have been affected from the pandemic, so I'm seeing revenue numbers probably where I was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's this certain, just identity of like, oh, I'm used to making this, which was way more than we ever needed. And now we're making this, which is still more than what we need. But yet, like there's this like inner fear, or also just like kind of part of that identity. Like, I'm so used to making this. So I have to assume like there's a struggle of like, oh man, I made 400. Now I'm going to make less. Oh, uh-oh. I know this is the right thing, but I have to assume there's always this little inner voice that's like, wait, should I say yes to this? Do I need to say no again? Do you have any sort of filter right now that you run through that gets to the point where, like, I'm sure there are certain assignments, certain people at corporations, businesses that, okay, I know this is definitely a no, like no question. I don't have to think about this. But what about the ones that are like on that fence where you're like, ooh, like, how do you go through that process of getting to that decision? Is it a yes or a no?
I just don't want to do anything I really hate anymore. And there's some things I used to do that I just dreaded, and I really don't do anything I dread anymore. And I'm fine making less. I think it's a couple of years ago, it would have bothered me to make less, but I'm still making a really nice income. And now I don't really care. I just don't want to be miserable doing work. I wake up every day right now, and everything I do, I pretty much like doing. So
that's fun. That's fun. And, right now your kids are at the age where they can start to understand what mommy and daddy do. What, how, with you and the whole Fat Fire thing, are you encouraging like college? Do you think college is even necessary for them? Like, are you guys having those types of conversations?
I don't know. I hope they go to college, but I don't know. I mean, I'm saving. I plan to pay for it. I've been saving for their college, but if they don't go, I'm fine with it. I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's so crazy the way everything has turned out where like neither one of our careers have anything to do with what we studied. So I don't want to pigeonhole them into something, but I also, if they want to go to college, I would totally support that.
Yeah, like my wife and I, we talk about this, and for me, like we both have college degrees. My wife actually has her MBA, and it helped. And for me myself, like I was so immature that I needed college. Like I needed
Yeah.
college for that, just that maturity, that also experience, because I didn't have a lot of that. Now with my kids, like they're getting some of that experience because like, man, I'm talking to them about, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad and investing and entrepreneurship and, things that, I mean, the word entrepreneur never came out of my dad's mouth,
Right.
growing up. That being said, my biggest fear is my kids see, they see their dad working not a whole lot, taking time
Right.
off, being able to coach them in basketball and take trips. Like they don't see, like you mentioned, the 4 a.m., before school and evenings and weekends. Like they were too young to remember when I was working 60, 70 hours a week at the financial planning practice and the blog to get to where I'm at today. So we have this fear of like, mostly with my oldest son right now, because like he think, oh, I just want to be an entrepreneur. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, dude. Well, that's great, but that doesn't mean you snap your fingers. Like you got to get off your iPhone, you got to turn off
Right.
YouTube and actually bust your butt and get stuff done. So, yeah. So it's a conversation that we're having, but I'd love to hear that you guys are also having that same conversation.
Yeah. And like my kids are the same way. My 12-year-old, like they know that we work, but we also, quit work early a lot of days, travel, do all this stuff. I honestly wonder what the future will be like for them. I hope that they see us working hard, but I think it is confusing. Like you said, I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of the joys of being a parent, right? Just
Yes.
planning your own future, but then also trying to think about what's the best for them.
My oldest is really money motivated though. She's raking leaves today for $15 an hour for somebody. So that's
love
good.
it. I love that. That's awesome. Well, hey, Holly. So one thing I wanted to kind of close with is that it's been a few years now. Like, you've been doing this for quite some time. And I'm assuming that you recognize that there are other people out there that would love to do what you do or something close to it, where they can work from home and be a freelance writer, for blogs, other websites. So you create a resource to show people what that is, like those steps. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I have a course called Earn More Writing, and I actually made it first in 2017, and then I've updated it once since then, so it's refreshed. And it's basically, it doesn't talk about how to write well. It's about how to get started and get jobs, because there are a lot of people who have a background in writing or they have an English degree. They just don't know how to translate it into paying jobs. And that is what the course is about. It's about setting up an online portfolio and where and how to find jobs, how to position yourself for jobs.
Now, and how many, you've had a decent amount of people go through this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how many. I know there's a Facebook group with like 1,500 people, so I think more than that. But
so a decent
sorry,
amount.
I don't know. My husband has the figures.
That's awesome. But I mean, this is a resource that, many people have gone through, many people have benefited from. And I think, what we talked about at the beginning is that I look back on your journey, and you have a bit of a spark plug personality, right? You're not, it doesn't sound like you're afraid of rejection, like it never hurts to ask. But there are many people, like actually my oldest son would be one, like he has that type of personality where if he's afraid he's going to fail, he'd rather not do it. And that's something that I'm working on, getting him out of his shell. And I'm assuming many people have a very similar personality, where it's like, how do you know where to start? I don't know what to do. And it sounds like that's what this course is for.
Yes, exactly.
So Earn More Writing is the course. And we'll have a link for that in the show notes, how that works out. And is there anybody that's gone through the course, like any students that come to mind that you've just enjoyed like seeing go through the process and begin to build their portfolios and become a freelance writer?
Well, a lot of personal finance writers have taken my course, actually. I think just because you can always learn something from someone. So even if people are successful, they bought the course anyways and taken it. I know Ben Luthi, who's another credit card writer. He's been in my course. Lindsay Van Sovereign is a personal finance writer that writes for some of my clients. She's been in my course. I can't think of anyone else notable, but a lot of people have have successful careers. I would say some of them had successful careers before they took my course, but it helped them in one area or another. And then some people have started from nothing and built something up. So
yeah, no, I think what you just said there, right? Some people were already successful, but this course kind of helped it put it all in actionable steps, like a step-by-step system, which a lot of people need. And just thinking of we mentioned Grant Baldwin, who also likes to travel. He used to be a motivational speaker. Now he has a course, and with him, like he's got plenty of speakers that are really good at what they do. But when it comes to actually booking and finding gigs and pricing and all that stuff, like that's the business side of it is where they're clueless, So like there's one thing to be a great writer, but if you don't know how to market yourself, if you don't know how to price yourself and just go through that process, it's like, man, you could be a great writer all day long, but if you actually want to make money doing it, then there's certain things that you have to do.
well, a lot of like old school journalists have taken my course because they have worked for newspapers for years. They're getting paid 40 or 50K a year in a cubicle, and they're hearing that people are making money writing SEO content online or whatever. And so a lot of people from a newspaper background have taken my course just to try to transition into something that pays a lot more, where they don't have all the hassles and everything. And that seems to be working for people pretty well.
So cool. Holly, it's been great. It's been great relearning some of your journey, also learning more about where you're at currently. Really loved the fall break in Italy. I just actually we'll close with this. Where are some of the next spots that do you guys book your travel well in advance, or is it more of a kind of like, where do you feel like going, like spur of the moment?
We book in advance. I'm an over planner, so we are always booked out. Other than the pandemic, I usually am like a year booked out. So our next trips, me and Greg are going on a cruise. It's like a media trip next week, but then I'm going to Mexico in December with one of my friends. And then for winter break, we're going on a cruise with the kids. And then on spring break, we're going to Mexico again, because it's my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. And I'm taking them on a very luxurious trip that I for to surprise them. And then today I just booked plane tickets to Budapest, because we're going to go on the Europe Pearl Jam tour next summer to see them in a couple cities. So I'm booked up through July now.
Wow. Wait, who's the Pearl Jam fan? Both you and Greg, or?
Yeah, both of us. Yep. And
wow.
It's actually, the concert has been postponed 2 years. So we were supposed to do this 2 years ago, but it got postponed because of the pandemic. So it should be able to go next summer.
Holly, this has been awesome. This has been great. We're going to have links to Club Thrifty, your blog they can check out. Also, Earn More Writing, the course for those that are interested to learn more about freelance writing and how to make that into a very lucrative side hustle. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.